Hello and welcome to this presentation on ServiceNow Event Management. In this video, we will explore how ServiceNow Event Management helps IT teams to monitor and respond to events across their systems. We'll cover what this module is and why it's important and its key features, and also how to implement it effectively using best practices. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of how ServiceNow Event Management can proactively keep your IT services running smoothly. In today's agenda, we'll start with an introduction to what ServiceNow Event Management is and why it's valuable. Then we'll break down to its core components, essentially how it works behind the scenes. We will explain how events are being turned into alerts and how system integrates with other ServiceNow modules like ITSM. After that, we'll go over the steps for implementing ServiceNow Event Management in an organization, including planning and best practices. Finally, we'll wrap up with summary and key takeaways. Let's get started. ServiceNow Event Management is a module within ServiceNow platform that provides a structured way to handle IT events from multiple sources. Think of it as a centralized framework that continuously monitors your IT infrastructure for any noteworthy events or warnings. It helps organizations to detect potential issues proactively, often catching signs of trouble before they become major incidents. By doing so, event management minimizes service disruptions and ensures that when something unusual happens in your environment, you are alerted and can respond quickly to keep critical services operational. Okay, now let's talk about why ServiceNow Event Management. Why should organizations use ServiceNow Event Management? First, it enables proactive issue resolution. The system monitors your IT environment in real time, so it can detect potential problems early before they escalate and send out automated alerts. These intelligent alerts cut through the noise by consolidating information from various monitoring tools and highlighting what really needs attention. Second, it drives enhanced operational efficiency. ServiceNow provides a unified dashboard for monitoring the health of all your services in one place, which streamlines how you respond to issues. Routine tasks like filtering out low priority events or automatically creating incident tickets are handled by the system, reducing manual work and the chance of human error. Third, event management offers integration and scalability. It ties in seamlessly with your existing IT service management processes. So events can trigger the appropriate incident or change workflows without missing a beat. As your organization grows, the solution scales with you. Handling increases amounts of data and complexity without compromising the performance. Key benefits and features. ServiceNow Event Management comes with several key benefits and features that improve IT operations. One major benefit is improved visibility. It gives your team a clear view of what's happening across all systems, so nothing important goes unnoticed. The platform also enables proactive incident management, meaning it helps you identify and resolve issues before they impact users or business services. Another benefit is reduced downtime. By automatic event handling and incident creation, the system ensures that your services remain available and reliable with quicker recovery from any hiccups. Finally, event management provides enhanced decision-making support. It gathers real-time data and analytics about your infrastructure and displays actionable insight. So, IT managers can make informed decisions quickly when an alert comes in. Together, these features help keep your IT environment stable and responsive. In other words, event management is proactive, working to avoid outages or disruptions, while incident management is reactive, dealing with outages or disruptions after they occur. Both processes work hand in hand. A strong event management practice reduces the number of incidents, and a strong incident management process ensures that if an incident does happen, it has minimal impact on the business. core components that make ServiceNow event management work. We'll examine how events are brought into ServiceNow, what the platform does to process those events, and how it generates alerts for your IT team. Understanding these components from event collection methods and event rules to alerts and correlation will give us insight into how ServiceNow turns raw data into meaningful actions. Let's start with how events get into system. Event sources and collection methods. ServiceNow Event Management can collect events from a wide variety of sources in your IT environment. These sources include external monitoring tools and systems like SolarWinds, Splunk, NatGeos, AWS, Microsoft SCOM, and many others. Essentially, any tool that keeps an eye on your infrastructure and applications can feed events into ServiceNow. Now, how does ServiceNow gather these events? There are multiple collection methods available. One common method is using a MIT server, which is ServiceNow's secure agent installed in your network that acts as a bridge pulling in event data from your on-premises systems and sending it up to your ServiceNow instance. Another method is through ServiceNow's REST API, allowing external systems to push events directly into ServiceNow with API calls. This is useful for cloud services or custom applications that want to send events. ServiceNow can also listen for SNMP traps and syslog messages, meaning network devices or servers can generate standard SNMP or log events that ServiceNow will capture. Regardless of the source or method, all incoming methods are converted into standard format that ServiceNow expects. This standardization is important because it ensures platform can consistently interpret the data, filter out irrelevant information, correlate related alerts, and ultimately transform raw event data into actionable alerts. Once events arrive into ServiceNow, event rules come into play to decide what to do with them. Event rules are essentially the brains of the operation. They are configured to filter, transform, and map incoming events into meaningful alerts. Each event is evaluated against conditions you define. For example, a rule might specify if an event from a database server indicates disk space low, then create a high priority alert. These rules ensure that only relevant or significant events get escalated into alerts, which really helps cut down the noise from the routine or low risk events. Part of this processing can also include automated alert assignment. You can set up rules so that when an alert is generated, it's automatically assigned to the right team or individual based on criteria like type of alert, its source, or the affected service. For instance, a network related alert can be routed directly to the network operations team without any manual triage. This way, alerts are promptly handled by people best suited to address them, improving your instant response times. In summary, event processing workflow in ServiceNow goes like this. The system receives the events from various sources, applies your event rules to assess and transform those events, and then generate corresponding alerts for the important issues, and can even initiate automated responses or send notifications based on those alerts. This end-to-end process ensures that raw data turns into actionable items with minimal delay. Events and alerts. It's important to understand the difference between events and alerts in ServiceNow. An event is basically a piece of data or a notification that something happened in your IT environment. Events typically come from external monitoring systems. For example, if a server CPU usage reaches 90%, your monitoring tool might generate an event to signal that high usage. Events can be informational, warnings, or error indications about the state of some part of your system. By themselves, events are just raw signals. A single event might say CPU at 90% or application error encountered. An alert, on the other hand, is something ServiceNow creates after processing those incoming events. An alert is actionable. It represents an issue that likely needs attention from your IT team. ServiceNow uses event rules we discussed to determine when to turn one or more events into an alert. For instance, if multiple events come in about that server CPU usage spiking repeatedly, ServiceNow might correlate them and generate a single alert. Say server X is consistently under high CPU load. Instead of bombarding you with separate events, once an alert is generated, it becomes part of the workflow. It can trigger the creation of incident record automatically, kick off an automated remediation script, or simply placed in a queue for an operator to acknowledge. Alerts have a life cycle within ServiceNow. They can be assigned to someone, acknowledged when someone is looking into them, possibly escalated if they are not resolved in time, and finally resolved when the underlying issue is fixed. So, in summary, events are the raw input. The signals coming from our systems and alerts are prioritized actionable notifications that ServiceNow outputs after making sense of those events. ServiceNow Event Management doesn't just create individual alerts in isolation. It also intelligently correlates to help you to see the bigger picture. Using alert correlation rules, the system can identify relationships between alerts. One way it does this by classifying some alerts as primary and others as secondary. A primary alert might be the root cause of the problem, while secondary alerts are the downstream effects or related symptoms. For example, a primary alert could be a database server is down, and secondary alerts might be website is not reachable and application error rate is high, which are consequences of database being down. By linking these together, ServiceNow helps you to focus on fixing the primary issue first, knowing that it will likely resolve the related secondary issues. The correlation rules work based on criteria you set. They might group alerts that affect the same configuration item or alerts that occur around the same time or that have other attributes in common. This rule-based grouping means when a new alert comes in, ServiceNow checks if it relates to any existing alerts. If it matches the correlation conditions, ServiceNow will group it rather than treating it as a completely separate problem. The result of alert correlation is noise reduction and incident consolidation. Instead of your team seeing 10 separate alerts for 10 related events, you will see one primary alert with 9 secondary alerts attached to that, or even a single incident created to track all of them together. This significantly reduces alert fatigue in your team and it speeds up troubleshooting because all related information is in one place. In short, alert correlation helps to provide a unified view of what's going on so that you can pinpoint root causes faster and avoid jumping between multiple and isolated alerts. ServiceNow Event Management doesn't operate in a vacuum. It's designed to work in hand with other ServiceNow modules to provide unified IT operations experience. A prime example is integration with IT Service Management module. When Event Management detects a critical issue, it can automatically create an incident in the ITSM system. This means that a moment a serious event is identified, an incident ticket can be opened and assigned without anyone having to manually do it. This integration ensures that critical issues get immediate attention through the incident management process. Event management also helps with incident prioritization because it understands the context of events and how severe it is. It can assign a priority to the incident appropriately. High impact alerts lead to high priority incidents, so your team knows how to tackle those first. Another benefit of this integration is having a unified platform for operations and service management. Both your operations team and your service desk team are looking at the same platform with linked records. This fosters better communication and a faster handoff from detection to resolution. Beyond ITSM, event management leverages ServiceNow's automation and orchestration capabilities. This means the system cannot only create incident requests but also kick off automated workflows or remediation actions in response to certain events. For example, if an alert indicates a particular service has hung, ServiceNow could automatically trigger a workflow to restart that service or run a script to free up resources, effectively attempting a fix before a technician even gets involved. These kind of orchestration and end-to-end remediation steps helped to reduce mean time to resolution because the platform is resolving a straightforward issues on its own. It also minimizes manual intervention for routine fixes. Additionally, event management ties into change management and problem management processes. If an incident caused by event requires a change, that change record can be linked back to the originating alert and incident. ServiceNow can even support self-healing mechanisms, for example, automatically creating a change request to remediating a recurring issue and then implementing it after approvals. In summary, this integration of event management with other modules that can detect an event can seamlessly lead all the way to fixing the issue and updating your IT records within one system. Implementing ServiceNow Event Management. Now we have covered what ServiceNow Event Management does and how it works. Let's discuss how to implement it in real world environment. Successful implementation requires good planning, configuration, and best practices. Okay. The coming slides we will outline a roadmap for rolling out event management. We'll start with planning and preparation, setting objectives and connecting your monitoring tools. Then we'll move on configuring the system and customizing it to fit your needs while keeping the maintenance in mind. Finally, we'll highlight some best practices and common challenges to watch out for. You for what you can avoid pitfalls and get most value out of the platform. Talking about planning and preparation. Implementing ServiceNow event management begins with careful planning and preparation. The first step is to define clear objectives and scope for what you want to achieve. For example, your goal might be to reduce incident response times or improve system uptime. Knowing your business goals will help to shape the implementation. Along with the goal, decide on the scope. Which services, applications, and infrastructure components do you plan to monitor with event management? It's important to identify the critical systems that need to be covered from day one. Next, you need to establish integration points and data sources. This means choosing which monitoring tools will feed in events into ServiceNow. You might use cloud monitoring for your cloud resources, network monitoring tools for your network gear, and so on. First, make sure all your critical monitoring systems are accounted for. Also, plan out data mapping. How event data from these various tools will be translated into ServiceNow. You want to ensure when different tools report similar issues, ServiceNow can recognize them in a better way. Finally, develop a response, procedures, and automation plans before you go live. It's very useful to create playbooks or standard operating procedures for different type of events. For instance, you might document what steps to take when a disk-based alert comes in versus a security alert. By having these playbooks, your team will respond consistently and effectively. At this stage, also identify which of those response steps to be automated using ServiceNow's orchestration. If certain tasks are repetitive, say clearing a cache or restarting a service, you can plan to automate them as part of your event management implementation. Laying this groundwork of objectives, integrations, and response plans will set you up for a smooth configuration and rollout. Configuration and customization. Now let's talk about configuring the system and tailoring it to your needs. ServiceNow makes the initial step easier by providing guided setup for event management. This is a structured implementation wizard which takes you through all the essential configuration steps in order. By following the guided setup, you can configure things like connecting your event sources, setting up basic event rules, and defining alert management. It ensures that no critical step is overlooked. For of course, every organization is different. You may need to adjust some settings. The guided setup also allows for customization options like specifying how certain events map to alerts or how alerts should be categorized to reflect your operation requirements. When it comes to deeper customization, it's important to follow best practices so your changes are maintainable. ServiceNow recommends using scope applications for any custom development or significant changes. This is one of the best practice. It means if you need to write a custom scripts or create a new workflows for event management, do it in a separate application scope instead of creating them in a global scope. This will encapsulate your changes and makes it easier to manage them. Especially when ServiceNow releases updates, your customizations are less likely to be broken by an upgrade. Also, instead of modifying out of the box rules or workflows directly, a good practice is to clone them and modify the clone instead of reconfiguring the out of box component. For example, if there is a standard alert correlation rule that you want to tweak, copy it and adjust the copy. This way, the original remains as a reference as a backup. Using version control for your custom scripts or rules is also advised so you can track changes over time. Also, you have set up event management and customized it according to your needs. The work doesn't stop you in engaging continuous monitoring and optimization of solution. This means periodically reviewing and how well your event rules and alerts are performing. Are you seeing alerts in the right things or some rules generating too much noise? Regular audits will help to fine tune the system. You might discover that you need to adjust the threshold or add a new correlation rule as your environment changes. It's also valuable to integrate feedback from the users. For instance, IT operators or support engineers who work with these alerts daily, they can tell you if they're getting useful alerts or if it's being confused or necessary. Use that feedback to refine your configurations. The goal is to keep the event management module effective and aligned with your organization needs as those needs to evolve. In summary, proper configuration using guided tools, cautious customization with best practices, and ongoing optimization with continuous improvement strategy are all key to a successful implementation. There are some common challenges and follow best practices. One challenge is a temptation of over customization because ServiceNow is so flexible. Some teams end up heavily customizing the event management module. The issue with excessive customization is that it can make the system complicated and to maintain and create difficulties when you need to upgrade to a new version of ServiceNow. The best practice here to stick ServiceNow out-of-box functionality as much as possible. Use standard features and add custom rules or scripts when absolutely necessary to meet specific requirement. Prioritize what really needs customizing and resist the urge to tweak things that are already working with default setup. This will keep your system simpler and more stable in the long run. Another challenge is designing complicated workflows. If you create very complex event handling or incident response workflows, they might be hard for your team to follow and also for your new team members to learn. Overly complicated process can increase the chances of errors. The best practice is to simplify workflows to align with how your organization actually operates. Involve stakeholders, the people who really use these workflows when designing them. By getting the input from various teams and their members, you can ensure this process that you're implementing really makes sense and covers all the needed steps without unnecessary complexity. The result should be user-friendly and maintainable workflows that people actually use it correctly. The third common challenge I experience is lack of expertise. Implementing a tool like ServiceNow Event Management effectively requires a good understanding of ServiceNow capabilities and how event management works. If the team is working on it isn't familiar with the platform, you could end up with suboptimal setup. The best practice is to invest in training and skill development. Ensure your IT staff receives proper training on ServiceNow Event Management and if possible learn from others who have implemented this. It's also helpful to establish a governance framework. Basically a set of policies, standards and guidelines how your organization will use ServiceNow. This might include naming convention for the rules, when to create alert versus an incident and so on. With proper training and governance in place, your team will be better equipped to utilize the platform's features fully and maintain an effective event management. In conclusion, ServiceNow Event Management is a powerful solution for proactively maintaining IT issues and keeping services reliable. We have covered what event management is: a centralized way to handle events from all your monitoring tools, as seen how it helps you to detect problems early and reduce noise and automate responses. We discuss why it's beneficial. It increases efficiency, minimizes downtime, and integrates seamlessly with your other IT processes like incident and change management. We also went through the core components, from event collection and rules to alerts and correlation. To understand how system works, then we looked at how to implement it successfully by planning carefully and configuring it using best practices and continuously improving it. Finally, we highlighted some best practices and common pitfalls to ensure you get the most out of the platform. By following these guidelines, organizations can leverage ServiceNow Event Management to significantly enhance their IT operations, catching issues before they impact users and streamlining the resolution of any incident that do occur. Thank you for joining this session. I hope it's been informative. Thank you.